Hello YouTube, you're watching FPV by the Numbers and I'm Kaz Walker. In this live stream I'm going to be doing a Tiny Whoop build pretty much start to finish. I've done a little bit of pre-building here with my frame and just putting some of the frame components together, but it's pretty much going to be start to finish. And I'm also going to be doing the maiden flight and flying around my apartment a bit once I get it working. So I'll start by going over some of the technical features of this Tiny Whoop build, but before I do that, I'm actually going to start some music just so once I get building, there's going to be some nice background filler. So let me go ahead and start up that music. So there we go. We should be hearing some music in the background now. There we go. I'll just bring it up to a slightly higher volume. There we go. I'm also going to be trying to change the audio levels in this stream, or while I'm streaming, just because I think it'll work out slightly better, but we'll see how that goes. Anyways, so let's go over the tech specs of what I'm dealing with here. So this is the flight controller I'm going to be using. This is the Eachine B-Core V2. This is an F3 flight controller, and it has an OSD, so that is great. We're going to have a Tiny Whoop with an OSD. But to further extend the functionality of the OSD, I'm going to be using the EWRF all-in-one camera here. I can't remember if it probably has some other name, but I can't remember it at the moment. But the VTX on this thing has a lot of features. So I'll just quickly go over them. So it has pit mode. It has switchable selectable power from 25 all the way up to 200 milliwatts. And it's NTSC and PAL switchable. You can do a vertical flip as well, so these two switches. This one, which has N and P, I'm assuming that's NTSC and PAL, so PAL is over on, or NTSC is over on the left, so that's what I'm going to be using. And then the flip is also that switch there, or I'm assuming that's the flip switch, makes sense. And then you've got your manual channel button right there. So in terms of technical features, the other really cool thing that this VTX has is that it has clean boot up. So if you want to take this out to a race and you've got, or a field, and you've got other people up in the air using VTXs and goggles, video systems, this isn't going to spike all the channels when it boots up. So you won't knock anybody's video signal out for a few seconds when your VTX is powering up and trying to just output on its own channel. And in addition to that, I mentioned before it has pit mode, which I confirmed before in my live stream. I was kind of questioning whether it did, so I've now confirmed that it does. And the really nice thing about pit mode is that basically it puts the VTX in a really low transmitting state, or low power transmitting state, so it only transmits a video signal just a few feet. I think it's supposed to be 3 feet, so around a meter or so. And that is really handy because if you want to check the settings on your quad and you don't really, if somebody else is using that frequency and you don't want to knock them out of the air, you can use pit mode, and really close up you'll get your video signal, but then it should fade back to theirs. But ideally, if you can, try and avoid using the same frequency as somebody else. Pro tip. But anyways, so that covers the camera and the flight controller. Now in terms of how I'll be tying the two together, this flight controller doesn't really have any available pins. That's kind of one of the shortcomings of this flight controller. But in order to get around that, I'm going to be using the buzzer plus pin, which is one of those little gold circles, the one that's, let me get something to point at here. There we go. So it's this little gold circle just at the tip of the screwdriver. The one that's a little bit further away from the center of the board, that is the buzzer plus pin. So that is that's the pin that I'm going to be doing resource remapping to in Betaflight, and seeing if I can switch it over to soft serial to get it to communicate with the camera's VTX, so it can change the channel and all that good stuff, and the power. So I'll just quickly go over the frame as well, what I've done to it, because this isn't quite a standard frame. It has a few mods. So this is the E010 frame, also an Eachine product. So very common Tiny Whoop frame, pretty standard. The only thing that I've done to physically modify the frame is cut out the battery part of the battery compartment so I can get this sponge in. And the reason why I did that was so I can fit in a battery. So as you can see, it holds it really nice and snugly in there, and like that's not going anywhere. It won't shake out, it won't come out during a crash. It's going to just be nice and solid. So the other thing you'll notice is this X running across. That is indeed carbon fiber. I believe that is the 1.5 millimeter version, and that's the brace for the E010. I do have a stock Inductrix frame, but I don't have the carbon fiber stiffener for it, so I didn't want to risk breaking it. But with the Inductrix frame, you wouldn't need this sponge bit because it's actually designed for these long, skinny batteries. So basically, for the frame, you can switch out whatever you have available, or if you have a preference. What I think I'm going to do in later builds, because I'm going to stick with these batteries just because I have a ton of them now. I have about 15 of these batteries. I'm going to switch over to the King Kong Tiny 6 frame, and that frame also supports the skinny batteries just by default, or it's built for it. No mod required. So, and it's supposed to be tougher, and it doesn't need this carbon fiber stiffener, so you could probably save some weight there. Now, in terms of the weight of this frame, without the flight controller or anything, it comes out to 14.1 grams. So that's nice. Relatively light. It is a little heavy, but it's. I can't really convey how beefy this is. Like just for being a Tiny Whoop, like this thing could really take a hit, or at least it feels that way. We'll see. We'll see. I'll make sure to do an update video if I run into any durability issues. But yeah, that'll just have to be another stream. So now for the 6.6. Okay, so that's a pretty good camera weight. And as you can see here, I've got this little metal frame. I'll make sure all these parts, including like the little metal bits, the carbon fiber, the sponge, I'll make sure everything gets linked to in the description. So if you want, you can do a carbon copy of this build. Carbon copy of carbon fiber. Anyways, so basically what this frame is going to allow you to do is just mount it, if I can get this all the way right way around. So there we go. So basically, it's going to come in just like that, and that's pretty much what it's going to look like when it's done. So as you can see, the camera's pretty exposed there, but it's screwed on, and this is a sleeve dipole antenna, so it's going to be really durable. But if you were using, let's say you don't have this camera in particular, but you want to use this board. If you were using something with a circular polarized antenna, but you still wanted to add the durability, using a brace like this that would go over the top, that's a really good option, because that'll protect your antenna in the crashes, because as soon as you screw up those antennas, the video quality really starts to suffer, and so does your range on the VTX. But with the sleeve dipole and the high power of this VTX, that shouldn't really be an issue. And this, I don't know what the price is in American dollars, but in Canadian, I think it's going right now for about 33 bucks. It's under restocking. It was supposed to be restocked on December 6th, 2017, but it's not yet, and it's currently the 9th, December 9th, 2017. So hopefully when that comes back into stock, I can grab one. I'm actually going to be grabbing two, because I want to do another build like this and have the Fly Sky variant and give that give that away as a Christmas gift to my friend Kevin. And if he's watching or watching the recording of this stream, then I guess I just kind of gave away his Christmas present. But oh well. But there you go, bud. That's what you're getting for Christmas. So, anyways, let's get right into the build. Or actually, before I start building, sorry, I'm going to start configuring this thing in Betaflight because it's a lot easier to. Before you get this all in the frame, it's a lot easier to do the binding of the transmitter and the configuring in Betaflight, just to make sure you have everything working first. That way you don't have to rip everything apart, and you don't want to. You want to try avoiding taking this apart as much as possible, because you are going to be putting metal screws into little bits of plastic. So the fewer times you can take the screws in and out of those little cylinders, little holes, the better it's going to be, because that's going to give you a more solid connection, and it's basically it provides less of a chance that you'll strip the screw hole, so it'll just be free spinning and it won't actually hold it. But anyways, let's get straight into the configuration here. So I'm gonna bind this first. I already have it
Welcome to OpenTX.
Bound, sorry. But I'm going to...
Engines disarmed. Acro mode.
Cool. So I'm going to... Oh, looks like my sticks are a little off. I'll have to fix that later. But I'm gonna just go over the binding process, because it's actually really nice and easy. Oops, there we go. So you just go to page 2 of 12 here, like you can see, and then you just keep on scrolling down until you find bind, wherever it is. Oh, and this is a D8 mode transmitter, so that's also something you're going to want to set up. So right there, that's where I changed it from D. It was on default of D16, so I just changed that over to D8 because this transmitter is an 8-channel transmitter, and then you've got channel 1 to 8, obviously. So then you just come down to the bind button, put it in bind mode. There we go. Oh, that's a little loud. Okay, I'm actually not going to do binding, but basically the nice thing about just so I'm not going to do binding right now, just because that was a really high squeal pitch and I don't really want that coming through on the stream. But the nice thing about it is you can just push this little button here. This is the bind button, and then you can just plug in USB, and it's relatively easy to do when you have it all apart, and the USB will power up the receiver in this, so that will actually do the bind cycle, properly bind it, and then you once you get that done, you unplug it, it'll turn off binding mode, or you'll have to turn it off. I can't remember which it is, but basically when you plug it in, should have said receiving telemetry or getting telemetry now. Oh no! Maybe I'll have to rebind it. Maybe I've accidentally undone something here. Hopefully not. Nope. Okay, so I am getting RSSI, so it is indeed bound. So that's great. And you can see this is also a little nice demonstration of the LEDs on the bottom. I didn't realize when I bought this thing that it has LEDs, but that's a nice little touch, because if you put it in the King Kong frame, the Tiny 6 frame or Tiny 7 frame, that should light up the clear or shine lights through the clear frame really nicely. Also on the Inductrix, it'll shine light through the frame kind of nicely. So that's a nice little feature. If you're into LEDs, if you're not, you're kind of stuck with it.
Lost.
There we go. It should have said telemetry recovered, so that's what I was kind of expecting. So maybe it only does that.
Telemetry recovered.
Maybe it only does that when it's reconnecting. That's probably what it is. So because I hadn't originally connected it, and then yeah, it's going to turn off.
Telemetry lost.
Perfect. So let's just turn off the Tyrannus there, so I don't get a warning about that. But yeah, we'll jump straight into Betaflight here. There we go. And I think it's going to put itself into binding mode. So, wait.
Welcome to OpenTX.
Yeah. So,
Engines disarmed. Acro mode.
There we go. So you can tell it's properly connected to the transmitter because these lights are no longer flashing. And I forgot, I'll actually need that because I'm going to set up all the channels and stuff. Because like I said, we'll do the Betaflight configuration first, and I'll walk you through all of that. So I'll just switch over to my desktop view here. Do some Inception almost. Yeah, this is the Betaflight view. I'm gonna just stand up here while I'm doing this, so if my voice is changing a bit, I apologize. I'm standing a little bit different, or in a different relation to the microphone. But yeah, Betaflight has picked up the board, so it's already selected. I'm gonna go ahead and hit connect. I'm gonna go over to the CLI, and then I'm going to do dump, which is going to give me all of the settings. So if I ever want to go back, I can. So there we go. And this is running Betaflight 3.2, fairly recent build from September, so that's not too bad. And I'm just going to open up Atom here. Atom is a text editor. There we go. Then I'm going to paste that in there. I'm not going to save that right now because I don't think I'll really need it again, but just in case, it's always good to have a backup. Okay, there we go. So yeah, to start off with, so I've got the backup. Now I'm just going to disconnect here. Now I'm going to go to the firmware flasher. I'm just going to double check here what I think this was an omnibus build. Yeah, omnibus build. So now I'm just going to choose the board. So I'm gonna look around here for omnibus. Where is it? Omnibus, there we go. So that's omnibus. And then the version, I'm going to pick 3.2.2. Not going to bother doing a full chip erase or anything like that. So I'm going to load the firmware. That's going to download it from the Betaflight website. This is the release info if you want to read that. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's too much that changed here, but I'm hoping to see something about soft serial, to be honest, because I had trouble with the soft serial on the GTR 90, and so now I'm just like paranoid about using soft serial and hooking that up to this because I'm wondering if it'll work or not. But anyways, let's just flash this firmware on there. So it's racing. Got a drink here. Now it's flashing. Nice. So now it is successfully flashed. So I'm going to connect here, and yeah, it's reading all that. It is indeed on its side. Is well, you can't. I guess you can't see. But the board is on its side just because of how the USB cable is positioned. So next up, I'm going to go to the receiver here, and just So I think when I changed that, it made it so it's not correctly set up. So if you flash, that's something to keep note of. So let's see what we got in the configuration here. So yeah, this is set to PPM, so I'm going to change it over to serial based. I'm assuming it's using S-Bus and all that stuff. I'm going to save and reboot. There we go. I'm going to go back to the receiver. I wonder if I have to rebind it. I'm just going to double check here. So I'm going to disconnect. And
Telemetry lost.
There we go. Reconnect. USB power.
Telemetry recovered.
Okay, so it's still bound. So let's see. Receiver. Yeah, we should be seeing some movement here, so that's a little odd. Let's see if I missed something. Receiver mode. Oh, I didn't hit save. There we go. That would do it. Yeah, so save and reboot. Okay, so now it's come back on here. Go to configuration, just make sure it kept those settings. Oh, it didn't. Okay, so then what that's going to be, I'm assuming this is going to be on UART1, and I'm going to switch on the serial RX onto UART1 first. There we go. So I'm going to save and reboot. Just going to connect again. Yeah, so if you're having difficulty setting up your receiver after doing a flash, that might be it. If this works. So let's see if it worked. Reconnect here. There we go. And now see how it's kept the serial and S-bus settings? So that's good. That's what we're looking for. So now if I go over to the receiver here, okay, so that means I selected the wrong serial port. So now I'm going to look at this. This is why you have the backup, though. So the setting. Feature RX serial. Yep. Okay, so these are the settings for the serial ports, but I'm just not sure. So that's serial port 1 through 3 here. So I don't believe I have it set to the right one. I think that's what's going on here. So we'll just go through and I'll try UART2. Trial and error, trial and error. This is how you troubleshoot. So this is okay, so it kept those settings. And there should be some jitter just on my transmitter here, so I can tell that's also not right. So we'll switch it over to UART3 here. Okay, so configuration is still there. Receiver, there we go. So this is what we're looking for. So it is on UART3, so there, if you go to ports, UART3 is the serial RX, and then receiver. So now you can see here I've got my yaw working, I've got the throttle working, I've got my roll working, and pitch is working as well. And aux5 that's jittering around like that, that's the RSSI. So what I'm going to do, just so Betaflight is picking it up, is on aux5, I'm going to set that to the RSSI channel. So there we go. So yeah, like I was saying, my trims are a little off here, so I'm just going to go ahead and retrim this. So I'm just using the trim switches. Wow, those are really off. It shouldn't be that far off. I'm a little concerned about my Tyrannus. But there we go, so that's now centered. The yaw looks good. I'll move it over just a touch, but yeah, now it's staying pretty much center, and this is yeah, pitch is going above 2,000, below 900, below 1,000. Yeah, so all the ranges look good again. I'm gonna have to look into seeing why I have to put the trim switches out so much, because I'll just switch over to to the view here, but you can actually see this is the trim indicator right here. It's all the way to the left, so I'll probably have to recalibrate my Tyrannus joysticks, or just sticks. I always call it joysticks. I'm so used to it being so used to video games and the terminology that it's hard for me to make the switch back in terms of lingo sometimes. But anyways, so I'll now switch back to the desktop view here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the resource remapping, or at least do the initial bit for it. So I'm going to use the resource command, and then I'm going to look for the beeper. So the beeper is right here on C15. So I'm just going to copy this one instead, because this one has almost all the information we need. And what I'm going to do here is serial 11, which is soft serial. Actually, this is going to cause an error, but I'll do it. Just cause here, just to show you what you'll see if you don't have soft serial enabled. Okay, that's interesting. So usually it should give you an error. It should say pin out of index or something like that, or serial port out of index. And basically what that means is that you haven't enabled soft serial yet. So in order to enable soft serial, you go right here. So I'm not going to save it just yet. I actually want to see if that saved it. Beeper 1C15. So yeah, it just didn't save it. So it didn't do an error, it didn't do anything, it just kind of did nothing. So if you're having troubles and you've run those commands, I guess that's what you can check. So just gonna wait for this to reconnect. Oh, there we go. So now just gonna go and enable soft serial, save and reboot, wait for it to reconnect. Okay. Then I'm going to use the resource command again. Oops. If I spell it correctly. By the way, if you can hear a grumbling in the background, I apologize. I'm quite hungry. So the other thing I'm going to do here is beeper 1. I'm going to set that to none. Okay. So, oops. I'm going to use the up arrow just to look at the resources again, make sure it's all correct. So now the beeper has been removed, and we see soft serial is at C15 right there. So I'm going to save this. That's going to cause it to reboot. And now I'm going to go back into the CLI and just verify that it saved all those settings. So we can see that C15 is set correctly and that the beeper is no longer set. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the ports tab. Oh right, it's going to redo this. There we go. And I'm going to go to the ports tab and I'm going to go to soft serial 1. I have to slow my speaking down so I can actually speak. And with soft serial, what I'm going to do is go to peripherals, and this is going to be TBS SmartAudio. Then I'm going to hit save and reboot. Cool. So now if I go to the ports, we see it save those settings and everything looks good. So I think that's pretty much all I'm going to change. Oh wow, the OSD is going to be a mess. Okay, so I guess I'll just quickly go through and do that. So I do want the RSSI voltage, I want the main voltage, don't want that, don't want that. I want the fly mode, craft name, sure, why not. I like having throttle position, VTX channel, kind of useless. You'll know what VTX channel you're on. Well, maybe, I don't know. Some people might find that useful, especially, well, you have SmartAudio though, so like, you can just check, so, don't really see the point. I'm gonna make sure I keep the units in metric because that's what I like. I'm gonna keep the video format in auto just in case I want to switch back and forth. Post-flight statistics. I don't have black box. There is no black box. I don't know if this thing actually has a proper current sensor or not. I'm gonna say it doesn't, but max speed is not useful because we don't have GPS, so it won't be able to tell the speed. Min battery is super useful, that way you can tell how low your voltage dropped during the flight. Gives you an idea of if you've done potentially some damage to your battery. And then yeah, this max current used milliamp hours. I don't know if that's actually gonna be useful because I don't believe this has this board has the settings to do that, but I'll make sure to do an update video and tell you if it does or not. But I believe that's pretty much it. Oh, average cell voltage, that's what I was looking for. And warnings and power. There we go. Now I'll just drag these around to the position that I want. So I kind of like signal to be up here, and I always go 1 bar in and a little bit from the edge just to avoid basically frame clipping. So sometimes especially when you're dealing with NTSC and PAL, sometimes you can have it get clipped. So a way to avoid it getting clipped and not being shown by your goggles, it'll be when I refer to it being clipped, I mean the goggles will be clipped. So, or the goggles will clip the image, sorry. And basically what'll happen is you'll be missing part of the frame. So if you go just a little bit in from each edge, you're basically guaranteeing that that you're not going to have that clipping happen, and that you can see those numbers and stuff reliably. So I'm just going to drag the craft name down, drag all this stuff down, really. What's this? Power? Oh, that's not what I wanted. So there we go. And then the flight mode, I like up there. So yeah, I think that ought to work as an initial setup. But something else I personally like to do, just because it makes the OSD look a little bit nicer, is I like to change the font. I like to set it to digital, then hit upload font. And it just changes the look of the OSD a touch, but really, really nice. And oh, you can see it rebooted there. Now I didn't hit save on the OSD, but one of the neat features, oh no! Oh, they must have fixed it with Betaflight 3.2. But basically as you were editing this stuff before, it would update it all. Oh no, I'm gonna have to do this all again. Okay, let's see how quickly I can do this. Throttle position. So yeah, I should have hit save before doing the font, but it's funny because in old Betaflight versions you didn't actually have to hit save and it would just take care of it for you. And warnings, there we go. Post-flight statistics, all I wanted was min battery. I'm going to untick all the black box and timers, and then I'm going to kick that over there. That's the throttle position that I'm moving around right now. This is the RSSI that I'm moving around. This is the main battery voltage. This is the individual cell voltage. And then there was one more. Craft name. There we go. So yeah, not too bad. It only takes, if you get familiar with the OSD and you know the components, it really, as I showed here, even if you mess it up, it's really easy to reconfigure. So And you don't have to worry about changing the font again, because it just, even though it's not displaying the digital font in this preview, it is indeed, it has been saved, so you don't have to worry about that. Anyways, so that's what I like for my OSD setup. It keeps the main kind of area clear, or the center field of vision clear.
Inactivity alarm.
And basically it just lets you see things, but if you do a quick glance up or over, you can see the information you need. So I'm just gonna hit save again. Okay, so yeah, it's saved. Okay. Not gonna play around with the motors just yet, but gonna take a look at this minimum cell voltage, warning cell. So the minimum cell voltage, since we're dealing with 1-cell batteries, that's a little low. I'm actually gonna I'm gonna live a little bit dangerously, and I don't know, either 3.2 or 3.1. And then the maximum cell voltage is going to be 4.2 because we're not using high voltage LiPos. So, and then the warning cell voltage, 3.5 is fine. I'm going to leave that there. And since I know that all the batteries I'm going to be flying are 220 milliamps, I'm going to type that in. But since we don't have the current meter working, I really don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. But we'll see. Okay, so that, I'm going to leave all the PIDs. Yeah, this is just the stock Betaflight PIDs. The only thing I'm going to change is I do like having the anti-gravity gain a little bit higher. I think I'm... Actually, I'll leave it as stock right now, but I will change the set point and stuff. So I like to have it at 0.5, and basically what I'm doing here is this is smoothing of the sticks. So like when you make a quick stick direction change, this is going to smooth it out a bit. And I'm also going to try and have VBAT compensation on. So these two settings bring it in pretty much just about I think that's around a quarter of each of the way in. So it turns it on, but it's not a very aggressive setting like for the set point. So it changes the feel of your stick movements a little, but it doesn't make them too mushy kind of feeling. I think that's a good way to describe it. It's kind of hard to describe. Really, just the best thing you can do is try flying around after playing with these settings and just see how it feels, because it's really all about flying by feel. Like that's the best way to fly, is to just actually fly. So the other thing I'm going to do is, since this is an Acro board, I am going to change my super rates. So I like these to be around 0.1. There we go. And then it should be around 0.8. I like to have the roll and pitch symmetrical, and then a little bit slower to be around 1100 in the yaw. Or sorry, not 1100, around 1000 in the yaw. So there we go. And then for RC Expo, I like somewhere around 0.2 or 0.3. So I'm gonna go a little less aggressive and go with 0.2. And basically what that's going to do is just flatten out the curve a bit, so the center stick, when the sticks are at center, they'll be a little bit less aggressive, or well, they'll be less aggressive. And what I find is that helps with hovering. So yeah, there we go. I'm just going to save that. So only change the rates, no PID tuning just yet. And I believe that is all. I'm not going to calibrate the gyro just yet, or maybe I should. It's just going to be hard to... Oh man, Miss Jack, awesome! I just took a look over at the chat. Thanks. Yeah, 27 subs is great. I kind of can't believe that it happened in about a week and a half. That's or I guess on Sunday, this Sunday, so tomorrow, sorry, tomorrow. Tomorrow my channel is going to be 2 weeks old, and yeah, so I've got 27 subscribers, and yeah, Madness Jack was one of the early ones, so thank you very much. But yeah, it's I don't know, I find myself thinking like, oh my god, it seems like a lot, but then I think like, is it a lot, or am I just an excited YouTube noob? So I don't know, but either way, I love it either way, and I'm just happy that people are enjoying the content. So yeah, thank you for subscribing, Madness Jack. You're awesome. Anyways, I'll get back over to the build here. So I think I'm gonna avoid calibrating the accelerometer. Sorry. So because okay, so it's upside down. Yeah. Ensure platform is not moving during calibration period. Sure, why not? There we go. Okay. Whoa, why is it flipping itself around? That's weird. Hopefully I didn't mess it up too bad there. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of twitchy, but whatever. Alright, so the other thing that I forgot was the board alignment. So that basically, since I'm going to be mounting it, or since I'm going to be pointing the camera in the opposite direction, that would affect the pitch. So if I pitch forward, it would actually be going backwards. It would look like it was going backwards to the camera. So in order to align that, I'm just going to enter 180 degrees about the yaw, because that is the orientation that I'll need. Oh, it thinks that's level? Must have been when it was reset, so that's weird. Okay, I'm like flipping this thing right around now, so it's weird that it's not picking up these changes. That's it's kind of concerning. I hope it's just my computer. I'm gonna chalk it up to Betaflight UI being slow here. So yeah, because those numbers don't look like they're updating in real time. Oh whoa, there we go. Just like all of a sudden kicked on there. Sweet. Okay, so that's good. So just gonna make sure. So I want to pit. I'm gonna just disconnect quickly and reconnect and try and hold this thing level. Actually, let me switch to a different view here just so you can see what I'm doing while I try to do this. So, I wanted it to reset there, but okay. So basically, I'm seeing if it tips forward. So I'm tipping it forward towards the arrows, and it's tipping backwards. So that is actually precisely what I'm looking for, because that means it's 180 degrees off, which is how it's going to sit in the frame. So I think that's good for software settings right now. So let's get back to actually soldering stuff together now.
Telemetry lost.
Yeah, there we go. Oops, not quite enough to turn it off there. Okay, and let me get rid of my view. That application you're seeing there and that you occasionally see when I'm switching around, that's an open source application called OBS, and that's what I'm doing to do all this kind of live streaming. And oh, and I forgot to mention, I added my logo. I don't know if you noticed down here in the corner. Put the black scale here just so it's easy to see, but that's my new logo. I know it's nothing fancy, but I decided to start simple, and I think it kind of captures it. I made sure to use complementary colors because you know, I wanted to have a decent visual aesthetic. But yeah, I'm actually really happy with how that turned out. It took me about 30 minutes to make that in the channel logo, but it's a nice little touch. I think it's a nice little touch. It makes me smile when I see it. So anyways, so I think what I'm going to start with, I don't think I'm going to start with the smart port because it's intimidating a little bit. But I think I'll start by soldering all the power connectors. So I'll have to go grab the power connector because I was actually using it as a LiPo charger, because that AO Coda charger that I did in my package time video, it turns out it uses the power whoop connector, and as I mentioned earlier, my batteries do not have the power whoop connector, so I'm not going to be able to use it. It seems like it would be relatively easy to mod to use the CPX connector as opposed to the power whoop one, but that'll probably be for a later stream. So I'm just going to step away here for a moment, but there we go, just unplugging stuff. Okay, so that's actually the battery connector, that right there. So I'll just get my headphones back plugged in here so I can listen to the music as well. I'm also listening to my own voice and making sure that the levels are good while I'm doing this. That's why I'm wearing these headphones, if you're curious, because I want the audio to come through clearly. I don't want it to be like a speaker being picked up by the mic. That's just no. I try to aim for a decent level of production quality. I try. I'm new to this, but I'm trying. Anyways, so that's gonna plug in that way. Okay. So the yellow loop here, that's the video. That's going to go to the video out and video in. Not sure which is which there. Okay, so it's got a, oops, too close. There we go. So you can see video out and video in. Let me grab the screwdriver. Makes pointing at little things so much easier. So that's the video out, video in, and that represents the yellow wires here, respectively. So the top one that I'm pointing at here, that's going to be the video out. So that's going to go to the video in of the flight controller, and then the video out is going to be the video in, which is going to be what's going to the VTX and being sent out to your goggles. So, like I said, I think I'm going to start with the power connectors first. So one thing to note here, for the E10 frame at least, there's only one way that this can go in, because this little spike here, so you see how it's got these three that go around the edge, and this one's a little bit more inset than the others. So you have to put this blank part of the board where there's no components or anything. You have to put that in like that. So, and I'm just gonna kick the antenna below it because I don't want it to get sucked into the vent or vents, ducts. This is a ducted craft. So it's gonna come out like that. I know it's not ideal in terms of RF. It should be pointing up, but it should work. And I mean, when you're dealing with a build this small, you're gonna have to make some compromises somewhere. So that is one I'm going to be making. So just gonna see if I can mock this up on these little standoffs. Oh, and I forgot to mention, these standoffs, they give you 5 of them. So even if you're using the Inductrix, sorry, just looking at the chat comment. That's actually my dad, Randall Walker. So, yay! Thanks, Dad. My family's very supportive of this, so that's awesome. Plus, it's a chance for them to actually get to see me on camera, since they live in Calgary, and that's why I'm going to Calgary this month, is to going to see family for the holidays. So yeah, so the oh, okay, I didn't get all the grommets out. So actually, like I said, I only need 3 for the E10 frame. You need 4 for the Inductrix frame. So basically, I'm going to be doing just gonna pop those on there. Nice. Oh, the nice thing about it being rubber is that they can, I guess all of them except that one can kind of pop on and hold their position. So it'd be nice though. There's a little bit of a lip. It should be, yeah, there we go. Sweet. All right. So just get, basically I'm just gonna get this kinda held in position so I can figure out where my wires are gonna go and how they're gonna be routed. Okay, just getting careful with that little antenna wire. So yeah, there we go. That'll be enough to hold it. So that's good enough to hold it in position just for the moment. And like I said, the camera is going to be pointed this way, so now it's really apparent. You've got the arrows pointing this way and the camera over it, so you can, yeah, you can see the lens is pointing, or the arrow's pointing right at the lens. So that's why you got to rotate it 180 degrees about the yaw axis. So the wires, and that actually makes the wires kind of easy because it means that they're coming out on the right side in terms of back and front and back. It is coming out on the right side, and the wires will need to go off to the left, so they'll need some length for that. But yeah, there's gonna be more than enough wire here. So these power, the other thing that I should have mentioned when I was going over the VTX is that it takes a range of, I believe it's 2.8 volts to 5.5. So this board has a 5 volt regulator over here, or it has a, it's not the regulator, sorry, it has a 5 volt out pin on this strip of 4, and that is designed for to be used for cameras. But I'm going to be running it off the power supply or the battery connector directly, because I'm a little worried that if I do want to take the VTX up to 200 milliwatts, that I'll put too much strain on the 5 volt regulator that this has, because I only looked briefly over the specs, but I wasn't able to see how many milliamps it can crank out, and I wasn't able to find how many milliamps of the power that this VTX will consume when it's transmitting at that level. So that is something to kind of keep in mind. I like this song. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna start with the power. So I'm just gonna turn on the soldering iron here. Oh, it's on its own cord. Oh, there we go. So, since I'm using lead free as always, I'm going to use flux, and didn't figure. I'm gonna turn off my iron just so it doesn't get too hot here, because I just realized I didn't check how long I need my power supply battery, or I keep saying power supply. I'm so used to building computers. Power supply. Battery. Okay, so it's gonna come out there, and I think to be on the safe side, I'm gonna leave this connector long, just so it can easily pull out, and if I want, I can kind of have the battery off to the side while I'm working on it. It may prove to be a little cumbersome, I think, because it does look like it'll be a little long, but yeah, it does look like it'll be a touch long, so maybe I'll take off about 7 to 8 millimeters. I do not know what that is in inches. I think that's like 1/8 of an inch is 3.5. So what is 3/8. I don't know. Clearly don't know inches. I don't know. All those fractions, they're just confusing. I really prefer a base 10 system when you're talking about measurements like that. Anyways, so that's gonna sit like that. So I think, like I said, trim off just a little bit here. So what is that? Okay, so that's coming out closer to 10 millimeters. So I'm actually gonna go up a little bit and not cut off that much. I'm gonna try to do the 8 like I was saying, because you know you can always take off more, but having to splice a wire back on, especially like these little silicone wires, like yeah, you're not really gonna be able to do it. So this is ridiculously tiny gauge, so I think I'm not even going to use my strippers here, just because I'm afraid of ripping these wires. So I'm going to use my fingernails. Fingernails is a good technique when you're dealing with wires this tiny, just because you're much, as long as you're not like really digging your nail in there and pulling too hard, it's pretty hard for your nail to rip the wires, the metal of the wires. So that looks good. Now I just have to figure out how I'm going to route these power wires. So it has to come down that way. So I think I'm going to go behind and under like that. So these power wires are going to come behind the VTX and then go under and kind of go like that. Or kind of go like that for the underview, staying behind that lead point there. And then, yeah, there we go. Okay, so I think I'm going to cut my wires right about there, because that gives me a little bit of extra length. Wait, what am I doing? There we go. So much easier using the fingernail method. It feels a lot safer too. I'm sure there are people who would say that it's not, but I think it is, because you're not. You have more fine control over just your fingernails when you're doing that, rather than your whole hand. So. That looks like it came out to an okay length. It'll have, yeah, and it looks like it'll have enough. I'm just kind of visualizing how it's going to be if I need to take the camera off. And what's really nice is that it's using a connector. I know a lot of people hate connectors and they like to have hard soldered connections, but I think in this case it's just. I find connectors to be great, because I know they're harder to waterproof and that sort of stuff, but they really do make maintenance and building just so much easier for certain things. Actually, before I do that, I might as well figure out the length of these wires. Okay, so the green wire is smart port, so I'm just gonna leave that guy alone until the very end. And then these ones, I don't want to leave too much slack, but so it looks like I'll have to cut off about 5 millimeters. So I'm trying to keep the lens cap on here, because I always manage to grub up the screen with fingerprints. I'm quite bad at that. Okay, so now the video loop is cut, and there's a little bit of wire off, another little bit of wire off. Oh, and just to be nitpicky, because that's my thing, like I was picking on the screws on the GTR 90. I think I was one of the only reviewers online to kind of point out some flaws with the GTR 90. Because I watched the other videos and it seems like everybody's just like, yes, this thing's perfect. And I was like, but what about the screws? So with this, what I'm going to point out is I really like how Iyashin did the wire colorings for the VTX and the camera combo that they put in the Aurora 90, because that was a purple and orange wire, and you know, with two yellows, I get why they did it, because they had the video loop and that way you don't need to change anything, but I'm sure if you're buying this camera, like, does anybody build quads that don't have a Betaflight OSD these days? Or should you? Or like, why? I don't know. Maybe you're using like the old MW, I can't remember what it's called, but like the old OSDs, maybe. You know, somebody's like, oh, it doesn't have little feature X that I love, so I'm going to stick with the MW OSD. Okay, so hopefully I didn't cut these too short. Now that I've got these in position, it almost looks too short. Oh dear. Come on, just line up. Getting this synth sax here. Damn it. Okay, here we go. Yeah, that's not bad. They've got a little slack there. They're not taut, so that's a good fit. And that's something else I do. I always dry fit at least 2 or 3 times before I solder anything, just because unsoldering stuff, you risk, especially on a board this tiny, using lead-free solder, because you have to use more heat with lead-free solder. It's one of the disadvantages. You definitely do risk damaging the component if you don't get it right the first time, or if you need to do any reflow or changes to it. So, okay, so that all looks good. Got the power done. Video done. Smart port makes me nervous. But yeah, I think that's it. This buzzer pin though, just look at how small that is. Or actually, it's a little out of focus, and it's even still hard to see. But okay, so it's that little dot that's closer to my thumb. At the center there, like it's hard to see, but you've got little capacitors over to this side. You've got I don't know what that is. Some IC there, and then like I think those little black things are diodes. But like you've got a whole bunch of little components to get around here. So like, ugh, it's gonna be tough. Which is why I think I'm gonna do it at the very end, and the way I'll do that is I won't even hook it up. I'll do a little maiden flight, get it flying. That way, if I accidentally kill it, I can say I flew it at least once. Because yeah, it wouldn't be the first time I've killed something very early on in its young product life here. Poor thing. So the Aurora 90, that was something I accidentally killed early. It just flew away and it was gone. It flew out of VTX range, so it only came with a 25 milliwatt, and I didn't realize it was gonna go behind a tree, and then the wind was kind of catching it because it's so light, and just gone. And that was the end of the Aurora 90. And that was on the third flight I had done, so yeah, that was a sad day. Okay. So, I'm gonna get the frame out of the way here while I'm soldering. Get the good old sticky tack going on here. I'm not going to use the blue mat I have this time just because I actually have a lot of stuff sitting on the blue mat because I used it to kind of like carry stuff away. So that's why there's no blue mat. Okay. Out and in. Okay. I'm actually going to solder it from this side because like you can see there's a bunch of, like this is the OSD chip and all the legs of the IC are right there, and then there are these components. I think those are capacitors, so it's got all of those right there. So if you're gonna solder, like the wires are gonna come in this side, so you don't really need to attack the solder from this side. You can attack it from this side or just solder, not attack. You're not attacking anything, but you can solder it from this side, and that'll make it easier because there's more space. Like there is this little, I think that's a diode. There is that little component right next to the video in, so that's what you're gonna have to be watching out for. But yeah, so in order to address that's the connection I'm gonna solder first. So just switched on my iron here. Let's see how we're doing for time. 1 hour in, and I'm only breaking out the soldering iron. I really gotta try and go through these streams fast, but I also want to include a lot of detail, so it's hard. Because I would have, like when I was getting started with this stuff, I really enjoyed watching long form content and getting all the details, and you know, just picking up tips and tricks when you're new to this stuff. So I think what I'm gonna try and do for future content is do this long form kind as a stream and have that video, but also do an edited form, because even though I hate editing, I totally understand that even an hour long stream here, like that's just I get it. People don't have that kind of time to put into this if they just want to know like how'd it work out. So. Alright, so, oh yes, I'm doing this in the wrong order. I have to flux my wires before I tin them. I'm going to tin my wires. So I'm going to be starting with the video out, which is the yellow wire that is in the middle. So I'm just going to straighten out those wire strands, stick it into one of these little flux holes here and just kind of twist it about. Just getting a little bit of flux. You can see that little speck on the end. That's going to splash back up when it heats up, and it's going to be enough flux. So that should be fine. So just get a little solder on my iron. I was soldering the wrong wire. That's why it shouldn't be yellow. That's why it shouldn't be yellow. You shouldn't have two yellows. It is confusing to have two yellow wires. So I could easily see somebody using this camera and mixing it up and having to resolder the two wires, because I almost did that. Okay, so that's nicely tinned. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of, it got a little out of shape, so I'm just gonna use these little grips here at the end of this thing just to squeeze it back into shape so it'll fit through the hole nicely. And then what I'm also going to do, there's a push pin, is I'm just going to take a little bit of flux at the end of this push pin and I'm just going to put it into this video in and just kind of squish it around. And that's how I flux those little connections there. So now I'm going to, so like I said, the wire is going to come in from the side with the components. So I'm just going to go in on that side. Oh no, it's still too wide. Oh dear, what have I done? Okay, so I'm gonna have to squish this down a bit more. So now I'm gonna use the grippy teeth parts. I speak well English. Okay, and I'm just going to try taking off some of this solder because there is a little much. And that'll should also just straighten it out a touch, hopefully. Come on. I think I'm actually just going to chop off a little bit that got, it's basically like frayed wire, so that should make it just a little bit easier to get in there. Come on. I think because with how fine this wire is, maybe tinning it wasn't the best idea. Because yeah, the solder is now just making it really hard to get it into the pinhole. So oh, success! Oh wait, I'm going through the wrong side there. Okay, flip it around. There we go. So that's the side I was trying to get to. Okay, and I'm gonna try and bend the wire out towards the outside of the board, and then and before I do that, I'm gonna come in with my right hand. Oops. Gonna do this soldering with my right hand, so I'm going to make sure that the open area of the board is off to my right. So that way it doesn't get in the way. The components don't get in the way, sorry. Okay, so get the iron ready. Little blob of soldering on it. Give it 2 hits, and that, surprisingly enough, that, yeah, I can see the solder flowed back through it, but it didn't come out, so that is it, and that's the solder done for that one. And you can see there is let's see if I can get the focus to work here. Using a GoPro, so the close-up focus really isn't that great, but yeah, there's a little blob coming off towards the edge, but the components are completely separated. I didn't touch that, I think it's a diode. I'm gonna call it a diode. I didn't touch that little diode there, so it's perfect. And I can see that it's not a cold solder because it's nice and shiny, and well, it flowed all the way through, and there's just, you can, once you get used to soldering, you can just kind of get a feel for just looking at it, how good a solder is. So, just gonna grab a drink here. Always stay hydrated while you're building. Okay, so now I'm going to do the video in wire, which is going to go to the video out. Oops, too close. There we go. So I'm going to do the video out, which is the bottom yellow here, and then I'm going to use the video video in on the camera, and it's going to be going to the video out on the flight controller. So again, I'm going to get it in the orientation here of having the open components that way. But before I do that, I'm just going to get ready to flex these wires. So just making sure my head's not in the shot here, because you can actually see the GoPro there, and that's the main feed for the screen there. The other camera I'm using, it's just my laptop, so it's a, I don't know, whatever camera comes in the Max, the FaceTime HD things. What I'm hoping to do soon, well, actually not this year, because there's not much time for me to set things up, is I want to get a camera and kind of have it in line where this GoPro is, and on the other side, and have that one have autofocus. So when I want to show you something, I can just be like, look at this, and it'll actually have autofocus, and it'll come out nicely, and that way you'll be able to read the text on the components and stuff, and it should work quite a bit better. Or well, just in terms of when I'm trying to show stuff, it should come out quite a bit clearer. So that is something I'd like to do. Okay. Yeah, that one took the solder nicely. It doesn't look like it went wide, or it doesn't look like the wire really flayed at all, so that's good. Does it fit through? Come on. Yes, it does. Okay, perfect. See, second try it just all goes, because I've got the system down now. There's the push pin. I was like, did I lose my push pin? I'm gonna get a little bit of flex on the push pin again, just like that. Yeah, you can kind of see it. And then just put it down there into the video out. There we go. So that song kind of cut off abruptly. Some of the songs on the playlist do that though, so if the music abruptly changes, sorry, that's just the way it is. I'm gonna look into a better playlist solution, because right now I just have these tracks playing on VLC. I want to get something where I can actually control the order of the tracks a little bit better, and actually have a little fade between them. But yeah. There we go. So the solder flowed back out, and that is indeed nice and done. So I'm just gonna finish up these solders by trimming the extra bit of wires. So yeah, those solders came out really nicely, and now the cables are nice and flush on the surface, which that's something I like. I find it just makes it look a little bit nicer, and it tends to have the wires bending in a weird way. Like when you solder wires like this and they come out, see how it's still kind of flexible there and there's some movement? Sometimes when you solder wires and there's those strands coming up that aren't covered by the insulation, the solder will wick up those strands and they'll become really stiff. And then if you have any sort of motion, it'll actually crack those wires, and you'll end up having to make a repair, and it's a bit of a pain in the ass. But But if you do it this way, as you can see, there's quite a bit of flexibility right there by the joints, and since these are silicone wires, they won't break as much, or they will take longer to break. Okay. So that's the OSD done. Next up is the power wires. So I'm just going to pull the... I'm just going to wrap this green, the smart port wire. SmartAudio. Got smart port on the brain after the GTR90. Goodness. There it is. Oops. Here we go. Yeah. Not working as well as I like. Okay, what if I just wrap it around the antenna? Good enough. It's yeah, what I was worried about was that little wire was touching one of those components, and I don't know where this is wired, what pin is wired to what for this, so I don't want that accidentally causing a short and killing the camera before I even get to fly it, because man, if I wreck something before I even fly it, I'd just be choked. So yeah, there we go. Just had to remember how I'm doing this. Cable routing, important skill to have when you're building mini quads. It's just the skill of finding a place for wires to run, really. There we go. So those are in the right place now. And comes all around the back kind of nicely. I mean, as nice as it can be. There's not a whole lot of slack, but there's not a whole lot of the opposite of slack. Oh dear. My words are failing me today. Sorry. My mind is in build mode. And I didn't have coffee this morning. I skipped coffee. Shouldn't have done that. If you've seen the JST, or replacing a JST connector with an XT30 video, you know why I shouldn't skip my coffee. Sparks flying across my bench. Not a good thing. Well, not. That's a little dramatic, but you can see those sparks. You can see those sparks. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to solder these wires together. Or is that the best way to do this? Nope, it's not. Because I want it to come out the other side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to flux each of these wires. Then I'm going to put them in like this. The power wire for the camera is going to come in this way. Then I'm going to come in like that with this power wire. Yeah, that's the positive side. And then I'll solder to it like that and kind of have the two wires together and fill that whole entire pinhole there with solder. Sorry if you weren't able to see that. I'm just kind of working it out in my own head. So yeah, like I said, power wire from camera comes in opposite side of the USB, top of the board with the arrows, and then I'll just put the wire down on top of this one and put a nice big blob of solder on, damn it, put a big blob of solder on that right there. So it'll all come together. It'll be a little bit messy, but I don't think it'll be anything too bad. Fingers crossed. It's not while you're soldering, because that sounds dangerous. That's right, I don't mind anybody seeing me bobbing my head to the music. I'm into it. There we go, so all the wires, the whole speech thing really ain't working for me today, but all the wires are now fluxed up. So, almost sounds like a swear, all fluxed up. So yeah, the power wire, like I said, coming in from the top, just have to straighten out these strands a touch. Try and do that without removing too much of the flux. And coming over here. Oh, hey, I didn't know the wire could fit all the way through. That's perfect. Now I can just straighten out the strands that got bent back. Oh, look at that. Perfect. And when it went through the hole, it fluxed the hole. So. Sounded fluxed the hole. It fluxed the hole. I'm just going to stop saying that. Oh, that's the bind button. I was like, oh shit, I cracked the board. Okay. Actually, that's all oxidized. Better. Much better. Oops. Go with this side. So that is enough to tack it in place. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to hit it again. Yeah, and then I can see the solder really get drawn in there. So, yep, and now that hole is filled from the other side as well. So that is nice. It's yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's just a little messy. There is one wire that's coming over and touching a different component. So a little, let's see. So yeah, you can see that little silver line that's going over there to that other component. All I'm going to do is just kind of scrape it back and then squeeze it together. And yeah. Now you don't see that little silver line going over to that, I believe the black ones are diodes. I don't know. Somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, but I might be wrong. Probably wrong. But yeah, that looks good. So there's no bridges, no nothing. And yeah, it's ready for power. Well, that wire is anyways. So next up will be the ground wire. We need more power. I'm giving it all she's got, Captain. She can't take much more. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I'm also a Star Wars fan. I know, I like both. I just like all sci-fi, really. Most sci-fi, not all. It's like, I had to reconsider that as soon as I said it. There's some that's just like, what? It's literally your reaction. You watch it and you're like, what? Like, what was that recent one? I can't remember. The one where the aliens were drawing with the ink and there's the time machine, or they're fourth dimensional, and I don't know. I can't remember what the name of that movie was, but that. I watched that and I was like, what the hell is this? Not a good movie. Or at least, not my cup of tea. Kind of did this in the wrong orientation, so I like how this is, so I'm just gonna peel up. That didn't work as well as I wanted it to. Yeah, I'm gonna come around from this side because, like I said, I want to have the right side open so I can come in with the iron and worry less about bumping other components. But you know, screwed up my layout, so I need to redo that. Come on, wire, just work with me here, will ya? There we go. Okay, and oh, I've already got a little piece touching other components, so I'm just gonna peel those, put those back and straighten that out. There we go. And the other thing I'm gonna do is, just with all this kind of rearranging I did, I kind of took off the flex that I had put on before, so I'm gonna use the end of the tweezers here and just put on a nice little thin coat. Sorry that my head's in the way, I know. But basically I was just working on that little ground wire, and see, this is why I need that other webcam, so I'll have the view from like pointing at me to look at the work that I'm doing, because the GoPro has to be this height or else it doesn't work, because it's the ideal focus height, and it gives me enough space to work on stuff as well, so. Do 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 do. Come on. Yeah, solder's not liking this one as much. Cold solder. Oh, there we go. Ow. Yep, okay. A little bit of a burn, but feel the burn. There we go. Yep, burning my finger a bit. All in the name of a good mini tiny whoop. Ah, ah. Ow. Ow. Okay. Check the other side, make sure some solder came out. Oh, the wire went pretty deep in that one. I think that's why that happened. Oh dear. Okay, so I'm gonna have to rework that one just a touch. So it's just not. I can see bits where there's not quite enough solder. So what I'm gonna do before I get started is I'm just. Oh, the wire snapped right off. Okay, so I'm just gonna take off as much of this as I can with the iron. Oh no, that bridge to that diode. It's going downhill fast. There we go, so now the components are no longer bridged. I'm just going to clean up all the extra frayed bits of wire here. And what I'm going to do is just make this into a nicer little area to solder to by tinning it more. Here we go. I'm going to make sure that the wire on the other side did not break as well. It didn't. It's still stuck there, so that's good. So the approach I'm going to take this time on take 2 is, now that I've made this just a nice little flat kind of solder pad, is I'm going to tin the wire, flux and tin this new little bit of the ground wire here. Which I'm now trying to expose. There we go. So that little bit's exposed. So basically I'm going to take a little bit more of the jacket off, insulation off. There we go. And then I'm going to flux, tin, get it so there's solder on here, hit it with the iron, should just stick down. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so that's fluxed. Make sure the iron's clean because all that solder is kind of old and a little oxidized. There we go. And this one I'm going to try and be a little bit generous with the solder on the tinning, because since it's not needing to go through the hole, having that extra little bit of solder is actually going to help. So this one I'm going to take off most of the solder on the iron because I don't want it to bridge back to that component that I had it bridged to before. And then I'm going to use tweezers so my fingers burn less this time. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. So that worked out. Just make sure I'm not bending this antenna too much. All of a sudden the antenna falls off. Ah! Okay, so that's the electronics done like dinner. So, I'm gonna turn off my iron for the moment. So, I'm just gonna give it a good old cleaning cycle here. Whoa! Flying sponge. Nice and clean. I'm not gonna hit it with the tip tinner like I usually do before it goes back in, but yeah. And the reason why I'm not doing that yet is I still got the SmartAudio connection to do, which at this point seems like an almost impossible task. But yeah. Let's try and get a flight out of this thing though. I wanna get this thing in the air. We're 2 hours in. I wanna see some flying. Some flying, damn it. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to put these little screws in through, these are the screws that came with the board, obviously. I'm going to put those in through the top. These have enough length if they're not that way. Oh, they're designed to be a little squished. Okay. If you're worried about the screw not, like, when it goes through the rubber, how there's not, like, quite enough here, that's actually because it's meant to be squished a little. So, it'll be squished once I screw it into the frame. So right now I'm just going to go I'm going to have to plug in the batteries, or the motors first, or else this is just going to be difficult. Motor 2. I can never remember how this goes. I believe motor 2 is at the front and should spin in, so I think that's the right one. Yeah, so screw it, I'm going with it. So getting this little motor connector lined up here. This is a job for the, oh my god, I can't remember the name of these things. And I'm having difficulty getting a grip on these things. These connectors are quite hard to grip just because they're so fine. Forceps. These are forceps. Okay, so basically I just kind of grabbed just the wires, which is not great, and just kind of guided it in. You want to do that really gently because you could pull the wires out of the connector, and that would be bad. You'll be having a bad day if you do that. Oh. Tiny Whoop builds are actually a lot harder than you'd think, because if you don't have long wires on your motors, it's a bit of a pain. There we go. That's one side done. battery wire down in here. There we go. Yeah, I'm really happy I left that as long as I could. Well, I did cut off some. I could have left it a little longer, so that is something to note. Be generous with the length of the battery lead. I need a 180 here. There we go. Alright, so the motors are connected. Now I'll just get the antenna into the proper place. That's great. It's looking good. It's looking good. Did I put these cables in the right place? Yep, there we go. Just making sure they're still correct and I didn't accidentally put something in the wrong way, but it's all good. And by that I mean just like how they wrap under this thing, so they're good. It's all good. All is good. Got the tunes, got ice water in my nice mug that doesn't, keeps water cold and icy for hours. Exactly what you need for a live stream. What you need for one of my style of live streams, that is. Be ridiculously long. I said I wasn't gonna have a 3-hour stream again, and I was gonna try and make it fast. I even did some pre-assembly of the frame and stuff. It just doesn't work out. These build videos are. It takes a long time to build mini quads, and I think that's something that's not well represented all the time in other videos, because it's challenging, especially like this. Like these tiny little components that you're dealing with. It's hard. Like these are not easy component sizes to deal with. These are hard because they're so small that they're difficult to deal with. Egads, my Phillips is not small enough. Oh no! I'll be right back. I apologize. Didn't break anything. So small, I need a pair of pliers just to get it out of the case. Okay, will this fit? Did I lose a screw? Oh no! Oh no! 1, 2. There's number 3. Oh dear. I have extras, but I really don't want... Oops, sorry. Bumping the camera with my head. I really don't want to have to do that. Oh. Yeah, as I thought, stuck to one of the motors. Motors are magnets, so they do tend to catch screws for you. Oh wait, I need the little tiny one that I just took out, so will this work? Oop. Yeah, that seems to be gripping quite well, so okay, that's biting a bit, so I'm not gonna thread it in too much because I want to leave some play so I can get these other ones in. Yeah, there we go, I could feel that one bite in. Okay, so I've got these two in, and this one at the front. I can just tell this is going to be a pain. Oh, and by the way, I did a little pre-fitting before, and the reason why I bound this all to the Tyrannus first is you can see this metal frame. Guess what's under that? The bind button. So if you're gonna build this thing, bind it first using that USB method I showed, because otherwise you'll be kicking yourself when you have it all together and you're like, where'd it go? No! The bind button. Where'd the bind button go? That's what I was referring to. Just in case it wasn't clear. I think it was, but... yeah. Okay, that went in way easier than I thought. I thought it was, like, the rubber was a little hard, to, like the little rubber grommet standoff. That's the end of the playlist. 1 hour and 52 minutes. Whoops. That's see, this is what I was worried about. Here, I'll just different order, sort them by duration. There we go. Sorry, I will get this audio stuff sorted. But that's basically the ultimate tiny whoop. I have stuff falling off me here. There we go. This is pretty much done. Like, aside from the smart port, which is going to be a little tough because you can actually see the little buzzer dot down there. Actually, I don't know if this can. No, you can't. Well, you'll just have to take my word for it, but it's right there. Oh wait, you can. Ha! I got it. There. So it's right at the tip of that screwdriver. It's that little gold dot there. So that's what I'll have to try and solder to. So that's going to be interesting. But like I said, that was a song that cut off suddenly. I might consider taking that out of the playlist. That does bug me. That is jarring. So okay, so the soft mount works. Like it's still the flight controller's still squishy in there. So look at that. It's so cute. Well, nothing left to do but throw a battery in it. And red is going to positive, black is going to the ground. Just doing a last minute check, making sure that there's no magic smoke being released from the electronics. Oh no! Yeah. Like there's barely enough slack in this wire, so I should not have cut it down. So what I'm gonna do, just to compensate, is squish it more into this foam. So there is a way to compensate for it on this build if you do happen to do that. But if you're gonna build it, like this extra bit of wire that I cut off right here, those two little pieces off of this thing, don't do it. Don't do it. I was trying to make it all neat and tidy, and that was a mistake. Have it be messy. It's not the way it's supposed to work. See, that would have been terrible if it was a 5-inch quad. Like, just my face is gone. I'm just trying to figure out why it did that, though. Like, why is it like, I'm gonna take off right now?
Welcome to OpenTX. Engines disarmed. Acro mode.
Yeah, how about no throttle?
Telemetry lost.
It's always something. But that's what these videos are here to help capture. So now what setting would that be? Thinking it might be the motor idle. I didn't really pay attention if the VTX fired up.
Telemetry recovered.
Yeah, the VTX is on.
Telemetry lost.
I just don't know why it's going to like full throttle right away. So I'm just gonna poke that back a bit. I'm gonna see if I can hook in the USB while it's all assembled. Oh my god!
Telemetry recovered.
I can! That's handy. I think this is one of my favorite songs. I'm gonna turn it up a touch. Just a little. Betaflight's not picking it up.
Telemetry lost.
Maybe it's not quite plugged in
Telemetry
enough.
recovered.
Oh, yeah, now it's plugged in enough. I think it just wasn't, it was in enough to connect to the 5-volt line there, but not enough to actually connect. So, oh, one shot 125. That's not right. Should be brushed. Well, there's your problem. So yeah, check that before you do that. I'm not sure if that could have damaged the ESCs at all. I don't know quite how brushed ESCs work, but that could have been bad. So if you're reconfiguring it, make sure you get that setting right here. So that is good to know. Maybe that's all I need. So save, reboot. It's gonna reconnect. Yeah, there we go. So let's
Telemetry lost.
let's plug it in.
Telemetry recovered.
No vroom vroom into my face. Okay, so let's unplug that.
Telemetry lost.
Get this back over. Get this battery back in here. Let's see if we can arm this thing. Mind you, like when I oh, I'll make sure to turn off this little desktop again here. So, mind you, when I was talking about like if you did that with a 5-inch quad, it would have right into my face. Not entirely true, because if you're building a 5-inch quad and you plug in the battery for the first time, if you have the propellers on, you are stupid. Like, sorry, but it's a dumb thing to do. Like, never plug it in with props on for the first time. That is just a recipe for injury and disaster. So, pro tip. I've never done that. I would never do that. So, that was just comedy. Or, you know what I mean. But, wouldn't actually do that.
Telemetry recovered.
Good. And I'm always, now I'm going to be paranoid every time I plug it in. I'm going to be like, is it going to turn on? Is it going to take off on its own? What the hell? Okay. Oops. Oh, wait, yeah.
Engines armed. Engines disarmed.
Okay, so we've gone from motors spinning out of control pretty much to not spinning at all. Next up, I'm going to, I had a feeling I should do this, and I knew.
Telemetry lost.
Yeah. I had a feeling, so I'm gonna plug this back in. Oh no, a screw came out. Oh no. No, 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 no. No, you don't. There we go. Yeah, I think that was the first screw I put in, so I didn't really crank it too much. And apparently I should have cranked it a little more. So now it's now that's nice and secure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the motor test feature in Betaflight to make sure that this is set up correctly. So, and of course now the USB cable doesn't want to go in.
Telemetry recovered.
Okay, let's see if I've got, yeah, Betaflight picked it up, so I'll switch over to this view right here. Actually, I'll go for the big desktop view. Connect, and actually I'll just switch over to the little one here just for us. Actually, the little one should be fine just for this, because this isn't like actually you don't really have to read. You're looking at big sliders for what I'm going to be doing, so yeah. I'm going to plug in the battery. And the reason why I'm plugging in the battery is because I want to run the motors. So I'm going to go over to the motors tab here in Betaflight. I'm going to say, I understand the risk the propellers are removed. I'm lying. They are not removed, but actually I'm going to turn the music down just a touch while I'm talking now that that song is over. But I'm going to try these motors one at a time. Okay. So they work. And just as I was thinking of this, I know exactly what I did wrong, so I don't need this tab anymore. It has nothing to do with the motors, they're configured correctly. What it has to do with is I didn't configure my modes in the modes tab because I didn't configure arming. So there's no arming range, you can't arm, and if you can't arm, you're not going to run the motors. Durr. So, I'll just...
Engines armed. Engines disarmed.
Yeah, so you can see this little orange thing that moved from end to end there when I did it, so...
Engines armed.
So now it's up there, so I'm going to move this armed range to the top. I'm going to disarm. But that is what's going to control that. And what else I'm going to do here is, I can't remember where I put it on the mixer. So the flight mode is channel 6. Okay. So it's going to be aux 2. So this switch here
Acro mode.
is aux 2 basically. So what I'm gonna do is
Horizon mode. Acro mode.
Oh right, aux 2. Wanted to demonstrate. So yeah,
Acro
now
mode.
it's switching. So I'm gonna leave the middle as
Horizon
angle.
mode.
Just like how it's saying, and I'm going to add horizon up towards the top range.
Horizon mode.
And what that's going to do is,
Acro mode.
when it's, oh, this needs to be aux 2. There we go. So basically, when the switch is all the way up, let me move this into shot a bit more. So when this switch, let me just make sure this is in shot now. It's in the way. There we go. This switch. This switch here, when this switch is all the way up, it's actually a 0 because that's off. So this switch is kind of inverted if you want to consider it that way. So when it's in the middle, it's going to be angle mode, and then
Horizon mode.
And then it's going to be horizon mode, like it says, when I switch it all the way
Acro
down.
mode.
And yeah, that's pretty much going to do that. It'd be great if I could switch on and off air mode, but yeah, I don't think... I'll play around with air mode later. I don't know... Flying indoors with air mode, as I've said in previous videos, is a little bit annoying because you go to land or bounce off of something and the quad will really twitch and freak out, so I think I'm going to leave that off just for those reasons. But yeah, now I'm going to disconnect and I will switch back to the normal picture mode here. And I'm going to unplug the USB.
Telemetry lost.
Yes, thank you. Move the battery sponge kind of back up to the proper position. And then put in this battery. Snug it in there a little bit because I cut the bat leads too short.
Telemetry recovered.
There we go. It's not trying to fly away, which is great. I'm not going to check the VTX right now. The VTX is on. Like you can see, it's getting power, so hopefully that's good. And actually, just something I want to mention, just because as I was doing all that setup in Betaflight before, it kind of occurred to me what I might be doing wrong for the smart port setup on the GTR90. So, and that's getting the RxSR receiving telemetry. So, I think I might have an idea for a live stream soon, because I think I might have just solved the issues. But let's give this thing a little flight here. So I'm actually going to put it into angle mode first.
Engines armed. Engines disarmed.
So I think should probably test the motor directions just to make sure that they are all in the right direction, because that flip over... Actually, let me see here.
Engines armed. Engines disarmed.
Yeah. So when it flips over like that, that's pretty much indicative of a motor being wired up wrong, or in the wrong orientation.
Telemetry lost.
So I'm just going to turn that off for the moment. Okay. Grab some more water. Okay. So I'm going to go back into the motor test tab. And this is kind of a guide of just like what I'm doing now with the motors and how I'm going to be testing this. This is something that applies to all quads of all sizes. So it's not just the Tiny Whoop here. So the techniques I'm using to troubleshoot this, there's my USB cable. They apply to all the quads. All the quads. How did I get 2 tattoo batteries out here now? What this? What? I'm not paying attention, clearly. Anyways. Which one's warmer? My lip is sensitive to warmth, so this one was used more recently. So I can't really feel it with my hands, like, but it's a pro tip. Your lips and also the small of your wrists, like right here, those are the most sensitive areas of your body to temperature differentials. So also your tongue, but really you don't want to be licking random stuff. So there's that. So that's why I'm not going around just like. But yeah. So what I'm gonna do is get this back over to the desktop mode. Connect. Go to the motors tab. Say, yeah, I understand the danger. Okay. And so I'm gonna point the quad away from me. And I'm gonna try spinning up motor 4. So that motor 4 should be this guy. Let me just make sure everything can be seen. Nope. I'm gonna go little desktop. There we go. Motor 4 that I'm gonna try spinning first is that one. So that's spinning properly. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm gonna try motor 2. There's the problem. Now I'm gonna try spinning motor 3. Yeah, so there's the issue right there. That's the issue. So okay, so which one was in the right place? Oh wait, that's number 1. Oh right, it's backwards. Right. Because I flipped the board 180, so the motors are backwards basically. So number 3 should be what'll show up as number 2 here. Yeah. Okay. So that's what's causing those issues. So, but Grr. Okay, so what's the easiest way to do this here. I think I might have to just use resource mapping. The motor direction is not reversed. It's just okay. I'm just gonna turn off all these beepers just because I don't have a beeper and I don't want any beeping to happen. Just like, so the reason why I don't want any beeping to happen and why I say that is I don't want, if for some reason my soft serial configuration hasn't worked, I don't want those beep signals to send anything to the VTX once I wire up SmartPort. So that's what I mean when I say I don't want any beeps. Okay, so I'm going to go back to resources here, and actually I'm going to switch over. Oh, there we go. I'm going to switch over to. Oops, sorry, I'm bumping the microphone cable. That's what that sound is. I apologize. So I'm going to go to the desktop view. Then I'm going to use the resource command. So we can see here motor 1, all these. So actually what I'm going to do just before I do that, this is going to cause a reset. Yeah, little reset there. Oops, it's not going to reconnect. So I'm going to go to the motors. So we're just going to make a bit of a mental map here of what I need to, of how I need to remap these. So number 4 is supposed to be this guy right here, and if I'm not mistaken, it will be motor 1. So I need 1 to 4 and 2 to 3. Yeah, okay. So resource. There we go. So I said 1 to 4. So I'm going to take. Actually, before. Well, I'll just leave it as is. So I'm going to do motor 4. Change that over. Motor 1 disabled. Okay, and then I'm going to copy motor 4 here, paste it in, and it's going to be number 1. And then I said 2 and 3 need to switch, so I'm going to copy that one over, and I'm going to set that to motor 3. Then I'm going to copy out the motor 3 command here, paste it in, and now change that to motor 2. AO3 set. So now I'm going to do resource, make sure all the motors are re-enabled and that none of them say none. And then save. That's going to reboot it. And then I'm going to come back to the motors here. And now I'm going to enable this. And I'm going to switch back to the small view here, just so you can see this. Now, when I spin motor, I'm going to spin motor 4 first. So now, when I spin motor 4 first, when I was spinning motor 1 before, this one was going. So this one should now read as 4. So success! And now number 1 should be the back right. Oh yeah. And then number 2 should be the front. Well, you know, it should just line up. So I'm going to stop saying the positions, but yeah. And number 3, oh yeah. Okay, I'm excited. So now that should stop the violent flippage that we were seeing there. It should make the quad so much less flippant. Badoom. Okay, I'll stop with the dad jokes. Okay, so let me go back to the usual view here. It's good. We got a good song playing. This da 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 one. Turn it up a little bit. Yeah.
Welcome to OpenTX.
So the reason why these are flashing, those lights are flashing on the bottom,
disarmed.
is because it wasn't connected. Okay, let's see. Fingers crossed.
Engines armed. Engines disarmed.
That's not doing anything again.
Engines armed.
I have a feeling that for some reason when I changed that, it changed the motor configuration back to the... Actually, no, that doesn't make sense.
Telemetry lost.
I was thinking it changed it back to the one-shot protocol for the motors, but if that was the case, it would have just zoomed away right away. So I'm a little confused. I'm gonna check the modes again just to make sure it is actually arming, because
telemetry recovered.
my guess is that it's not arming. So I'll just go to this desktop view here, since I hope this is going to be quick. Yes, it's still brushed. So the modes are still set correctly. So it says it's armed right now.
Engines disarmed. Engines armed. Engines disarmed.
Okay, so it armed that time. That's bizarre. So what I'm gonna try doing, I don't know how close this is to the edge of the frame. Oh yeah, it's pretty close. But I'm gonna try setting the quad down in a level position, and I'm gonna hold really still, and I'm gonna calibrate the gyros, because I think, or calibrate the accelerometer, sorry. Because I think what was happening was that it was kind of thinking it's at too much of an angle, and then it was kind of tripping itself out. So it was thinking that it wasn't level when it was. And one way to get around this entirely, actually that looks better for being level, so I'm going to recalibrate here. Yeah, there we go, it's creeping back to level. Sweet. And then when I do this, yeah, that's how it should be, because it's tilted up, and it's the USB cable's keeping it all over. So that seems level to me if I was to look at it. So yeah, good enough, I think. So I'm gonna disconnect here and change back to the normal view. So
telemetry lost.
Let's see if that worked.
Telemetry recovered. Engines.
Oh, it is an angle mode, okay. So that's probably why it was having so much trouble.
Engines disarmed.
I'm gonna try this on the floor, so it'll be a little harder to see. Well, actually, you won't be able to see it. But what I can try and do here is switch up the VTX. So I'm going to switch it into channel 1 because I use Fat Shark 1. So I'm going to put it in low power mode. Okay, so I think that is correct. So I'm going to switch over to a slightly different view. This is so I can change resolutions. Nope, that is not the right channel. Dang. Okay. So, I don't know. See, it says FL1, and it keeps flashing between those three, so I would read that as Fat Shark Channel 1, low power. But I don't think that's the case.
Telemetry lost. Telemetry recovered.
So I'm just gonna grab my Fat Sharks, not actual Fat Sharks, but the reason why I'm grabbing my Fat Sharks is I have the Attitude V4s, and with the little OSD that these goggles have, I can do a bit of a quick survey mode of what bands. I'll actually see if I can. Actually, let me plug my headphones back in. There we go. Oops, there we go. So now I can. Let me see if this can get into focus. Which way do I tilt this? You can't really see it. But basically, if I do a long press, it's going to scan the Fat Shark band. So there's nothing there. And I have no antenna on, but when it's this close, like, really there should be some signal if there was going to be some. So band A, doesn't look like we got anything on band A. Band E, a little bit on channel 1. Oh, looks like we're going up there. Channel 4 looks like it has the most signal. Race band 1 is pretty good. Okay, and band A again, nothing. Band E. Band E4 looks to have the most signal here, so
RSSI critical.
Yeah, there's definitely no video.
RSSI critical.
Stupid. Oops.
RSSI critical.
Yeah, so not sure if it's just a problem with the VTX or not. It could just be a problem with the connector if it's not quite plugged in right.
RSSI critical.
Yeah, it feels like the video connector wasn't quite plugged in right, so.
RSSI critical.
So if that was the case, it wouldn't. Okay, so I'm going to try.
RSSI critical.
I'm going to try
Telemetry lost.
plugging it
Telemetry
back in.
recovered.
Fat Shark 1 low power. Seriously, would I read that thing?
RSSI critical. Telemetry lost. Telemetry recovered.
So,
Telemetry lost. Telemetry recovered.
okay, that's getting annoying. Just move that away so stop getting that. Sometimes this Fat Shark. What's that beeping? Oh, that is my that is my lithium-ion batteries here for my headset. Okay, so I'm going to have to change my batteries on my headset. Sorry about that. That should only take a second or two. Everything that can go wrong will. Okay, so got some new batteries here. So there's the goggles. Okay. Wait, what? Oops. So it should be Fat Shark 1. Yeah, it's not. So, race band. You can't really, fortunately this, for whatever reason, this is like the only LCD screen that doesn't get picked up on the GoPro here. Yeah, so there's no video signals coming through anywhere. Well, race band 1 is really the only one, so it's coming through on race band 1. Static. Okay, so I feel like this is a problem with the VTX. And I hadn't tested this before, so yeah, I don't know. It's definitely seems like it would be the VTX, just because usually when you get a problem with video from well, not smart port, I'm saying. Usually when you get a problem with the flight controller video, it'll just be black. It'll just be a black screen, but it will be a solid black screen and you'll get high signal on that VTX channel. Whereas this, there's no real signal at all. So I'm gonna quickly look at the Banggood website here, just to bring up the manual to make sure my assumptions are correct about this. So I'm just gonna stand up here. There we go. And I'll plug my headphones back in to make sure that that I can hear myself. There we go.
Telemetry lost.
It's weird, I almost forget that there's music playing, and then I look at it and it's like, oh yeah. Or I listen, I plug my headphones back in, it's like, oh, hey, yeah, music. Okay, where's the manual for this thing? Manual.pdf. There we go. So, yeah, this thing went dead. Oh wow, I really drained the cell. That's whoops. That's something you've got to try and avoid. So I will set that one aside and make sure I check it later. Yeah, it's hard to keep an eye on the cell voltage when you don't have the OSD.
Recovered.
So, oh wow, these need to be zoomed in for these instructions. Okay, so frequency channel F1 should be 5362 megahertz, which sounds right for Fat Shark. It's usually in the 5300 band, or range, I should say. Hey, that's looking good. Well, that's in the 5600 band, but because I have it on race band 1. Yeah, and Fat Shark's like 0. Yeah, and I was right. Low is 25 milliwatts, so this should be 25 milliwatts transmitting on Fat Shark 1. Fat Shark L1. Yeah.
Telemetry lost.
But for some reason, that is not the case.
RSSI critical.
Yeah, my Fat Sharks aren't picking up anything. That is a problem. Yeah, I'm getting some signal on race band 1, but I don't know what that could be. And now it's gone, so it's probably just like a Wi-Fi router or something. Okay, so that's that is no good. Yeah, I have no real way of testing this, so it kind of sucks. Yeah, I didn't test it out before because I was assuming, probably maybe wrongfully, that it should just work. Maybe try changing the switches, I don't know. Because I can't even get a video signal out of this thing, so switch it to PAL, nope. And now I'm concerned because I can't see what the battery voltage is, so flying this thing is not really going to be easy.
Telemetry lost.
Okay, so before I go do checking stuff, checking VTX, what I'm gonna do is just turn on, actually, what quad can I use? I put all my other quads away. Ugh. Yeah, I feel like this should be working. Let me just check the video out pin is correct. Yep, that's right.
Inactivity alarm.
Video in is the video out, or video in on.
Inactivity alarm.
video in on the flight controller is correct. I mean, unless the flight controller is wired up kind of weird, which is potentially an option. B core B2. So where's the manual? User manual, please select download. Oh, that's the FlySky one. I want the FreeSky download. I doubt there will be much difference in this particular case, but I don't know which one they're showing here, but yeah, that's strange. Because it looks like it's wired all up correctly, so I mean, oh, what could I do to test this? So I switched this back to NTSC, and I don't know where that switch is supposed to be. So this switch, I believe this switch is the one to switch video. Like it'll flip the camera image. So, and I'm gonna set it to NTSC. So, that should be working. Without pulling this thing apart, really, I can't comment on it too much to make sure it's something I've done or whether it's the actual problem with this VTX that I received or camera VTX that I received.
Telemetry lost.
So I'm gonna see if I can do just a little flight around my apartment here. Unfortunately, I won't be able to show you guys.
Telemetry recovered.
Because
telemetry lost.
Well,
telemetry
there's no video
recovered.
coming from it, but I'll see if I can just get this thing up in the air.
Engines armed.
Yeah, it's nice and stable too. A little underpowered. Very stable. So the flight controller definitely
Engines disarmed.
definitely seems to be working. Oh wow! Almost pulled my soundboard down with me. That's a problem. So mixer board, not soundboard. Don't have sound effects. So yeah, that worked really well. Definitely feels like I've been running this a while, so I'm gonna say that the battery is most likely dead. So I'm gonna keep that battery set aside over there. That was the one I really killed. Yeah, I'll grab a new battery. Let's see how that works for a little fly. and then I'll probably end the stream. I'll keep working on this because I really want this thing to fly around. And well, I really want to be able to fly FPV, because flying a Tiny Whoop, line of sight is just, it's not as fun. So,
engines armed.
Yeah, there we go. New battery definitely helps. Wow, and it's stable. Like, it's super, super stable. So, oops. Hopefully I'm getting this on camera.
Engines disarmed.
Okay, well, hopefully that kind of, hopefully you could see it fly around there on camera. I don't know. Oh yeah, I can see it on the delayed live stream. So there is proof that it flies. And yeah, like I said, it flies really well. I'm actually very, very impressed for how this is flying for a Tiny Whoop, and just how it feels in terms of its flight characteristics, and just how stable it is, because it is rock solid in the air, and just it holds its position very well. There's very little drift in angle mode. So I think this is where I'm gonna cut the live stream, just because it's going to be more so to me troubleshooting and hooking it up to a bunch of different stuff, and I can't really stay on camera and engage with the camera and do what I want, like actually explain what I'm doing. It'll be more so just me troubleshooting. But what I'll make sure to do is I will go I'll go into detail about what I tried, what I thought it was, and that kind of stuff, if I do get it working. If I don't, I will also do a live stream just to do an update as to what was not working, whether it was the VTX, the camera, or the video circuit in the, well, I doubt it was the video circuit in the flight controller, just because it doesn't have the right symptoms. So, but that is going to do it for this live stream. If you watched the whole thing, thank you very much if you watched the whole thing, for one, because this was definitely a journey. But that is pretty much what it takes, to the effort of what it takes to put into a Tiny Whoop to get it up in the air. It takes at least about an hour and a half if you're doing it really fast, and if you're trying to do a nice clean build or something that you haven't done before like this, it's gonna take longer. Probably it'll take longer. So it's a realistic video in that sense. But yeah, thank you very much for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed this live stream. I know I did. This was a great way for me to spend my afternoon. This is just a ton of fun. So yeah, please check out my other videos if you haven't. I do 2 to 3 live streams a week. I do one on Monday, I try to do one on Wednesday, and then I try and throw in one in on the weekend on Saturday. And that's kind of going to be the schedule going forward. And then the live streams always go out, well, they go out live, obviously, and then I repost the videos at about 9 a.m. the next day. So this one is going to go up at 9 a.m. tomorrow. And yeah, that wraps it up for this live stream. So please consider hitting the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber, if you liked it, and smash that like button if you liked it. If you didn't like it, hit the like button anyways. No, I'm just kidding. If you didn't like it, before you hit the dislike button, or maybe hit the dislike button anyways, but please consider leaving me a comment. That way I can know what it is that I'm doing wrong, and I can try and do better, because that's part of this whole process of what I'm doing, is just improving my content creation skills, improving my speaking skills and presentation skills and all that sort of stuff. So I would appreciate the feedback. Anyways, I am out. I'm gonna go have a beer and then figure out what what the heck is going on with this thing. So I will talk to you guys later. Enjoy your Saturday and happy flying.